Thank you very much for inviting me to speak for TestFlix 2020. Is it stupid to ask stupid questions? Asking so-called stupid questions is a greatly underrated skill and a very valuable skill for testers. Of course, there are questions that are not sensible to ask, but in this short talk, I want to address a specific context where the right questions, whether they feel stupid or not, are critical. Here's the context. Imagine that you are in a meeting discussing something very important, such as plans for a critical product, or user stories or requirements, and there's something, or maybe more than one thing, that you really don't understand, or you have reservations about, or you think could be just plain wrong. The more you think about it, the more you are convinced that there's an important issue that is not being adequately considered, and it could have serious consequences. So what do? Do you say something? Or do you think something like, no one else seems to have a problem here, so maybe it's just me? If you have found yourself in this situation, it's you that I want to talk to. What is the essence of testing? The tester's mindset is one of questioning, of challenging, probing, exploring. Testers are the ones who think and ask, what if it isn't? Have you thought of this? What happens otherwise? Asking questions is fundamental to good testing. However, it's understandable that in many situations, testers are hesitant to challenge what's being said. Even just asking for clarification can be difficult, especially when everyone else seems perfectly okay and seems to understand perfectly. I'll let you into a secret. If you are struggling to understand, you won't be the only one. But if no one asks or questions, everyone continues to think they are the only one who doesn't understand, then the misunderstandings are never cleared up. A disaster that could have been prevented is now gathering pace. Tom DeMarco, co-author with Tim Lister of Peopleware and many other great books, told this story at a Eurostar conference. He was called in to advise on the requirements for a significant safety-related system. These requirements had been seen by lots of people. No one had raised any issues. When Tom started looking through it, he found dozens of very serious problems, omissions, ambiguities, which he duly brought to their attention. Why had no one else ever found these? The reason was that each person, when they saw these requirements for the first time, had privately thought to themselves, these are terrible. But then they thought, well, no one else seems to have a problem. It must be me. I'd better keep quiet. But Tom had the confidence to challenge the assumptions and reveal the problems. This confidence is something that testers should take upon themselves. As testers, we must ask these questions. We should take it on ourselves to be the stupid question askers on behalf of our users. If something in a user story or requirement isn't clear, the system may not meet their needs or may cost the company a lot of unnecessary time and money. So, if you do want to challenge or ask about something, what's the best way to go about it? Let's go back to that meeting where you are hesitating about asking that question. What is it that is actually stopping you from asking? Perhaps you are the most junior person in the meeting. Perhaps you feel that everyone else's expertise must be much greater than yours. Perhaps you are afraid of being shot down if you raise something. Perhaps you're afraid you may inadvertently upset or threaten the other person. Unfortunately, this is a risk you may have to take. This is why testing is so important and also so challenging to do well. Here are some suggestions for you in this situation. Maybe you could start your question by saying, this might be a stupid question, but this might defuse the situation. Or you could say something like, I'm sorry, but I'm not completely sure I understand this correctly. Could you please explain? This is less threatening because you are not focusing on their possible mistakes, although you are trying to expose them, but you are taking responsibility yourself for not understanding it. You are then giving them the opportunity to show a greater depth of their knowledge by answering your question. This is definitely a positive, not a negative, right? Let's hope they see it that way. Actually, just explaining something is an excellent way to understand it better. So hopefully the answerer will realize the problem even as they are explaining it. You will also find that if you ask such questions, other people may be encouraged to ask other questions, and even more problems will be found early. And after the meeting, you will also probably find that other attendees were really pleased that you had raised this because they didn't understand it either. Sometimes it may seem that asking a question is showing weakness, but this is not true. Not asking a question is weakness, as well as stupidity. If you don't understand and you don't ask, you are only preserving your own and others' ignorance and misunderstanding. Asking the question shows that you are strong enough to be confident in your own understanding or lack of it. It takes courage to ask these questions, especially if you are in the room, virtual or physical, of more senior people. But asking questions is the best way to communicate your concerns. It is much more effective in this situation than making a statement. Asking questions is pull style rather than push style. A statement invites disagreement and challenges. A question invites answers and understanding. A question recognizes the expertise or knowledge of the other person, so you are showing respect for their knowledge, even while highlighting any problems in the work. When I was young, many, many years ago, my mother taught me about 3 questions to ask yourself before you say anything. Is it true? Is it necessary? Is it kind? If you have found something truly wrong or questionable, this passes the first test. It is true. If you are hesitating to say something, I hope to have convinced you that you should. It is necessary to prevent worse things later. But the final point is up to you. The way in which you communicate should show respect for the other person, even as you challenge their work. Always be kind in the way that you ask. So, testers, your role is to be the one who asks the difficult questions, the questions others don't ask, even at the risk of feeling that it might be a stupid question. Develop your expertise in asking these important and challenging questions that get to the heart of ambiguity and misunderstandings before they can grow to become big problems. And ask those questions in the right way. Always be kind. Become not a question master, but a master questioner.